talk show is brought to you by...
Hey, want to feel young again? Are you tired, run down, have aches and pains, brain fog? This is science-based, not hype or fancy marketing. It really works. Carbon 60 helps detoxify your body on the cellular level. It stabilizes free radicals, just like the antioxidants found in red wine and berry stew, but on a far smaller, more bioavailable nanoscale. It's like a bottle of electrons, helping your body to function better. You can also apply it on your skin topically, over muscles, joints, or organs. Most people feel results within minutes. This is not a drug. It's organic carbon. Feel better today. About 95% of our users report more energy and clarity of mind within 10 days. Give us a call at Greska's Carbon 60 at 720-600-6040 or visit our site at c-60.com. Call 720-600-6040 and feel young again.
Folks, welcome back to the ENBC Network, iHealth Radio, the Fit and Fab channel, all the channels technically. I mean, we have a tremendous show today with a great guy that's going to take us into a journey of a lot of things. I mean, he's really busy. And again, this guy, first of all, I want to salute him and thank him for his service because he is a veteran. And we'll talk about that part of his life. But also, he's an entrepreneur. He is an evangelist entrepreneur. He really pumps people up. He's a consultant. He has a gym. I mean, so we're going to talk fitness. We're going to talk business. We're going to talk, core values. We're going to get into the deep dive here. My guest today is Jason Skeesick. And Jason, I'm so excited we finally made this show because I know we've kind of rescheduled a couple of times, but hey, we're here, and I think this is going to be just awesome stuff. So I am glad you're here, and thank you for being with me today.
Awesome. Well, Hurricane, thank you so much for having me on the show, and it's definitely worth the wait. Even just before we hit record, I've already enjoyed our conversation, and I really appreciate you sharing your audience with me today.
Listen, this is what we do. We have a lot. I always say this, I refer to my network, the ENBC network, as the resourceful and informative network because it is really not just talk shows. It's resources that are available to people that are listening, to our viewers and listeners. And not only we give the information, but we also give access to folks and services that are available and products that can benefit your life in any shape and form. And so that's why we diversify our programming to make sure that that's happening. And of course, our mission is core as well. And we're going to talk about core values. My values are educate, enlighten, inspire, and motivate. That's really what we want to do today, is to enlighten people and inspire and motivate them. And you can do all that stuff. But so let's go down to your history and your story, because you started into all these things a few years back. But we can go back to the youth. We can go back to the military. Yeah. It is your show. Guide us through it. Let's talk about, Jason and the story behind Jason that got him into where he is today.
Yeah, my story is like a lot of entrepreneurs. Growing up, I had entrepreneur's disease, which means ADD in some circles. And so I was super duper interested in the things that I was passionate about and the things that I was interested in, but I had very little interest in following the rules and fitting everything within the lines. And so I spent most of my young life I was spent in an alternative school, for kids like me. And, at the time that felt like it was a cross to bear, but now I'm so happy that I was put in a situation where I was able to study at my own pace and I was able to pursue things that I was interested in. And I had a family that was very supportive of me, being super interested in certain things and maybe not necessarily being, I just wasn't cut out for the corporate 9-to-5 thing, which I certainly tried. And so when I got out of the military, when I got out of the school, I did what so many, people like me that didn't know exactly what they wanted to do, young men and women. I joined the military, to hopefully learn some discipline and focus and drive and hard work. And I'll be darned, Hurricane, if I didn't get all those things. And so if I grew up very spirit of the puppy, which is my first core value, I earned my military mindset in my 4 years in the Army. And then when I got out of the military, I did two things. So many people take this route out of the military as well. I know many. One, I went to school on the GI Bill and I got a degree in finance to go into corporate finance, which, spoiler alert, that was okay, but it didn't work out great. Like I said, I'm not cut out for the corporate world, but I learned so many things there. I learned how to analyze businesses. I learned, accounting and finance and really what makes, money move in the world. And the second thing I did at the same time was I started a small little dusty CrossFit gym and on the fourth floor of an almost abandoned warehouse in Chicago. And I found very quickly that I would be, in this, high-rise tower in downtown Chicago and working on a $50 million deal for a client. And all I could think about Hurricane was this little tribe of, 45 people that we had started that was in our gym and how passionate I was about helping those people and fitness and health, seeing them transform their lives like I had transformed my life through hard work, working together in a group. I always call that collective elective suffering, and so through a circuitous path, I decided to become a full-time entrepreneur and devote myself to the gym business. And as soon as I made that decision, things really turned around for the business. We were able to grow the business very quickly. I had some unbelievable mentorship. And from that, I really fell in love with this idea of masterminding and mentorship and core values and systems. And so I put my focus towards consulting for other gym owners. I did that for a few years. And I realized that the messages that I was getting from the entrepreneurs I was helping and the advice and the help I was giving to those entrepreneurs in return, it wasn't just limited to fitness. And that's where I decided, after selling most of my two businesses, I decided to focus on what's now called Spear and Clover. And that's my company that helps serve entrepreneurs, primarily in high-ticket entrepreneurship, online businesses, how to understand core values, build simple structures that can scale their businesses without them having to, break down all the walls and wear all the hats, and have loved doing that. And then most recently have helped to start a very quickly scaling men's hormone optimization company called Primal Mountain Medical. So very much involved in wellness, fitness, very much involved in primarily serving men, and very, very much in love with the idea of being an entrepreneur and helping evangelize that lifestyle.
That's quite a bit. Quite a bit.
I tried, Hurricane.
That's a pretty cool, like a nice looking size, timeline. And we're gonna dissect a lot of that stuff right now.
Sure,
so
let's do it.
So I do want to go back to the original piece of the discussion, or at least your story, is that you were not like everybody else at a younger age. You said you went to an alternative school. Alternative school. Can we expand on that a little bit? Because maybe parents are listening. They might have children that may have the same personality or the same traits that the regular school maybe, and they may be fighting at this point to figure out why my kids are this way or they're not. I think it's important. I mean, your example is a perfect example to show that, hey, not everybody is made equal and the same way, and everybody has a different drive, but yet you can succeed. I mean, ultimately you succeeded and your life is just as normal as anybody, if not better than many, right? But the concept is some people, they may be stuck at that level. Whether and if we have any younger folks, listening to this, or still in the youth level, and in high school, or it's a worldwide show, so there's no ratings to this one, so people can actually download the podcast anywhere. But if they are watching, you are a true example of that. It could work, it would work, and there's always alternatives. And the regular school is not, system may not be for everyone. Same thing for the regular business concept is not for everyone. 9 to 5 is not for everyone. And so let's go to that level, of discussion, and then we can go to the corporate piece, because I'd like to actually talk about that, because you've covered a lot of things that are really beneficial in terms of the discussion today. So that's the first one we want to highlight, and then let's take it to the next one.
Yeah,
what do you say to those parents or those young people that may feel that they're just not cut out for a standard school system?
Yeah, I was pulled out of regular school in first grade. I was 8 years old, and I found myself in a group that was 40 kids from K through 12 that were typically behavior disorder kids. And I think that's what they would qualify me as, even though I was never a violent kid. I was never not a particularly angry kid. I was just very ADD, right? I was very much, I would read 20 books in a couple of months, but you couldn't get me to pay attention to social studies or something. And so what I would say is, our schooling industry was really formed around, the factory system. It was formed around this idea that we want to get people to pay attention to, a very strict, lane for 8 hours a day or something like that. And for many people, that produces unbelievable results. Maybe for most people, this is how we get many doctors and lawyers and business people and nurses and all of these really wonderful things. But for some people, you put them in that environment, it stifles them. It holds them back. And it's not an easy task for parents, certainly not then and certainly not now, for parents to understand that there are other routes where, as a child that's maybe different than others, you can thrive in a different environment if you're given an opportunity to pursue those things that you loved. Because I think there's one word that always just pops into my head, and it's the thing that I think drives everybody. The word that people like to use is passion. I like the word interest. If I'm interested in something, and if someone is interested in something, I even just got chills saying it. It's like there's no limit to the amount of effort and focus and drive that I'll bring to bear if I'm interested in it. If you're interested in video games, it's not hard to convince you to play video games for 8 hours. If you're interested in business, it's not hard for you to spend your entire day and sometimes the night working on a business. If you're interested in football and on and on. And so for me, I've found that not by putting up walls in front of the sheep that want to go all over, but by shepherding my interest towards those things that can be valuable to myself and add value to the world, I've found that not only am I able to succeed, but I can't stop myself. I love doing the things that I get up and do every day, which is why I've been able to set up my life now where there is no boss. There is nobody that tells me to get up and crawl behind this desk and sit in front of these computer monitors for a good chunk of each day, because my interest is what's driving me forward. And so if there's anything I can tell those parents or those kids, it's that, your interest may shift, but if you can learn how to harness your interest and point it towards a successful path, there really is no limit, regardless of how you may be doing in a traditional school setting.
Well, thank you, Jason. So there's a couple of things there. One, I love what you said about interest versus passion. And I think you're the first one who actually broke that down in this way, at least to my knowledge, and at least in the shows that I have listened to, other podcasts. But really, and you're right, interest is the key. I mean, having passion is great. It's like that's the motivation behind it. It's like the excitement. Yeah. But if you don't have an interest, and I think that's where a lot of people sometimes fail. And again, I hear the word fail means they just don't thrive, because I don't believe in failure, literally. Yeah. Because they're driven by somebody else's agenda. And most of us as kids are driven by our parents' agenda or by society's agenda. They want, as you said, there is a system, there's certain ways to conform to. And everybody is falling into those lines one way or the other. It's just different venues. As a kid, I mean, your parents pretty much kind of decide all the stuff for you, and they tend to. We all kind of, I'm a parent too. There's a point that I was always kind of like guiding my kids, but there's a point you realize that it doesn't matter where I drive them, it's got to be them that will have to make some of the decision. And if they're happy about what they do and they have the interest, then they're going to do it. And a good example, my daughter, and I'm proud of her. She similarly to you, she had just not a disability, but she just could not focus the same way. And one of the things that, as she was going through the selection into her high school, she loves beauty and cosmetology and stuff, and she signed up for that thing. I mean, she's doing terrific in it, and she's graduating, and she's happy. She knows already what her drive is. Now, some people say, well, what is that? It's not a big deal. For her, it's a big deal, and I'm supporting that. That's her thing. That's her interest. And she can turn that into a business, a corporation, a franchise, whatever she wants to do. She can, and even if she doesn't, at least that she's doing something that she's happy with. And it's very difficult sometimes to support the ideology, especially when kids are minor and you have the overhead as the parents. No, I want you. I'm a successful story. You need to be successful. I'm this. You need to be. I'm a doctor. You need. And we see a lot of those examples. Yeah. Doctors have a lot of doctors in the family. Lawyers have lawyers in the family. They keep it within, which is great to do, but that doesn't always work that way, right? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Now, again, it still coincides with that interest piece. If those children have the same drive and they're motivated by the same, type of work and they enjoying it, why not? They're gonna thrive and really succeed. But if they were totally like, I don't feel this thing, and you'll find sometimes you have 3 or 4 kids, some will line up to the parents' thoughts, and the other ones will be like, I'm the rebel. I don't want to do this. You do you, I do me. And that's important. So the reason we covered this, because I think this is a real thing for a lot of people. And it just happens that, sometimes we push our kids in the wrong way. And by the way, this affects us even in the long run, because when we go to college is another example. We pick, something and we wind up, literally not working in that thing. Many people,
Right.
Get a degree in something just because they go to college. It sounded right at the beginning, but then they come out of that college, but it's like, this is not for me. I'm not, I got a degree, but this is not my interest. I did it because I had to get that degree, but really it's not what drives me. And when you have that interest and the drive, then there's to your point, nobody's going to stop you. You can work 24 hours and you're going to enjoy what you're doing. And we always know this. We hear this all the time. If you can enjoy what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. But that's actually behind that is that interest and that passion that goes with the interest. But if you have, like we say, I lost interest in a person or something, therefore you don't care anymore. Well, if you're not there, it's not going to happen. But it starts at that early age. And I think supporting that ideology. Now, you nail it. The system has been designed for over a century plus, like in the 1900s or 1800s, when it all started. There was a system behind why the systems was designed the way they were. To your point, there's this factories, there's business, even in the white collar, concept, it is still, you clock in, clock out, you got services, you got this, you're basically part of a chain, right? That, listen, I come from corporate too, so I understand that. And I subscribe to it and don't at the same time. I understand the concept, but I'm also a little rebellious in a way. So I kind of work the both angles. But you got to find your way. That's the thing. And I think you did. And as a message to people out there, thank you, because you probably can open up eyes to a lot of folks. And maybe someone says like, I don't have to force my kids to do one thing because they're really good at this. Like, my older son loves cars and he loves fitness and that's what he does, So everybody like, you try to put them in a particular direction, but it's not always going to work. And if you force them into it, they're going to do it. But either they're not going to pass through it or succeed, or they're going to do it and then they resent it. Eventually.
Yeah, they're going to learn. They're going to learn that work isn't fun. They're going to learn that that's a part of their life they have to do. And like you said, if you find something that you get to do, then you never work a day in your life.
All right. Well, so that's it. And I think we talked about the whole concept of the 9 to 5. Again, that's not for everyone. Some people they design that way. That's okay. You like to get up. It's the same routine. You wake up, you go, you do your thing, and at 5 o'clock you clock out and you're gone, you're home. That's it. You get your drinks, whatever you want to do, go to gym, enjoy your life, your weekend hits, and TGI Fridays, 5 o'clock and I'm out on the weekend. That's a formula again that existed for a long time, and we have seen changes and shifts in that same formula. And even pre-COVID, you have industries that actually kind of started that trend. Like there's no work-in schedule. You work with, it's performance-based. We've seen that in the Silicon Valley. We've seen that in some other areas, and it's getting there. There are companies that actually give you unlimited, PTO time. You just have to work. Yeah, you just have to work, right? So it's changed. It's not the norm yet, but it is there as a concept. And I think post-COVID, it's clear that the old mentality, like you got to show up, 9 to 5 every day at work, otherwise the job doesn't get done. That's all gone. That was cool. But it was proven not really that cool or that effective because we've survived COVID and businesses still, if not, they did better, right? Some of them, and so the idea of people working remotely hasn't failed. It just structured, and with the technology we have now, it's not even difficult, right? So life changed a lot. So thank you for that first part of my question. Now the other part, now you have selected the option to go to military. And that was a choice. I'm assuming that was your choice.
Yes, sir.
So just curiosity, any reason Army versus Marines?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. So really, well, 2 reasons. Why did I join the military, and why did I join Army versus Marines? Why did I join the military was I knew that I didn't have a path or a purpose. And my interest in those days was competitive pool and poker. So I was gambling a lot, and I had no money, and I wasn't that good, I wasn't good enough to be a professional. And so it was one of those things where I just knew, okay, I'm super interested in this. I was very good at it. I was playing, multiple tournaments a week and doing well, but I wasn't going anywhere, and I just could see the writing on the wall. And so I kind of had to make a decision to say, basically I need to find some discipline. This is one of the main reasons why people go to the military. As far as why I decided to, by the way, that worked. But why did I choose the Army? I actually was between the Air Force and the Army. The Marines was a little scary to me. I wasn't disciplined. And so the idea of the very regimented Marine lifestyle, which I have nothing but respect for whatever reason, that branding, it was like a little scary to me. And the reason I didn't go into the Air Force, this is true, is because the Air Force told me, they told me I had to go and collect all the information from schools and from all this other stuff. And then the Army was like, we'll do all that for you. And I was like, you got it. I signed up right there. So it was laziness. That's why I went into the Army.
Well, but you touched on a lot of things. I mean, you're right. I mean, by the way, all military system, they all have discipline, and it's really, there's no joke. You made it sound like the Marines were like, super, and the Army was not, but the Army is just as drill as the other guys, just different ways of looking at it. Air Force, I mean, everybody goes through the same boot camp training and things like that, and it's just different. But you're right, it's just different appeals and use. But at the end, it serves the same purpose. I mean, obviously the air guys, they have the better life because they just tend to fly around and do different things, and we love them. Actually, I had a great show with one of the Air Force retirees, and it's awesome. My father-in-law was in the Air Force, and my one of the mentors was a captain in the Air Force. So I love those guys. But I love Maverick, the movie Top Gun, kind of thing. But military is still the basics of all, and you know what? Army does actually give you, the basics of discipline. And you're right. See, I have never enlisted. I'm the only child here, so that was kind of like you can't go, parents wise. But although I did actually, believe it or not, true story, I was registered to go to military school for medicine, and because I was the only kid in the household, my parents were not for it, and therefore I didn't pursue it. But that was then, and can't do nothing. I'm not regretting it, but yeah. So I'm always, but I've been in the martial arts world, and it's very similar to discipline.
What's your martial art?
I've done quite a few. I've started in karate for years. I've done taekwondo. I've done ninjutsu or bushido, or the art of the ninja, if you want to call it that way. So it's a little bit of aikido, all the other stuff. So I've dabbled with these things, and I will continue living as a student of the arts. I love them. Yeah. But one thing they help me in life is that discipline that comes with it, the respect for ranking, the respect for authority, the respect for the technique, the respect for the environment, understanding all the stuff. All these things do apply in real life, and you cannot take that away. And military and martial arts are tied together because historically those were trained. It's the arts for militaries. That's basically what it is, right? Or combat training, all the stuff. So it was always there, and I appreciate it. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. And as I had told you, I salute you for your service, of course, and anyone that served. And I love what you said. That's how we enjoy the freedoms, right? We need people that are willing to do that, and to stand for something, and keep everybody's happy on the back end, having our barbecues and doing nothing. But really the concept of joining makes a difference. As a matter of fact, my oldest son did actually go into ROTC when he was in high school, and he did the boot camps, and he did all that stuff, and he was good. He belonged into a group of friends. There was some respect there. There was a lot of discipline there that helped him. So it is a big concept. Not to forget, the idea that you do get a GI Bill, funding, and hey, listen, a lot of people actually go through it and then eventually use that money to go and finish college and things like that, which you did. Again, I know a lot of people that did that, and they're great business people and leadership, levels, and they really made it through college, because college is not cheap. It's not, you walk in and you get it. It's not prepaid for you. You got to pay for it, and it's a business. Yeah. Unfortunately, it is. Unless you have some kind of scholarship, other way, this is a good way to get a scholarship and then our funding for your, school. So it is important. So you did that. And then after you finished that, I love that. I mean, you in the military, you're always training. So technically that's part of your thing. You kept that same tradition. You have interest in fitness. You opened your boot camp. So boot camp is typical. That's what your 6 months, I think, was it 3 months, 6 months, 6 months, right? For military training.
I think it was 9 weeks.
That's it.
And then we had, it's just 9 weeks. I think the Marines is 11 and I think Air Force is like 7 or 8.
All right. Well, again, so boot camp it is.
Yeah.
And you use some of those techniques and some of those training, I'm assuming, in your format, right?
So we opened a CrossFit gym, which is not too different from a boot camp. But yeah, not too different.
And so you started there. That was your first business. Mm-hmm. And by the way, that is always scary for people because starting a business, especially if you knew this, you're not cut off for the world of corporate because you did go there. What I missed was it in at the same time you were in the corporate
same
world?
Time.
And okay, so
we started the business when I was in college, and so it was at the same time I was going through college, and then as I went through and became a banker, we had just kept the gym, and absolutely, I thought it was a hobby, right? It wasn't scary for us because we each threw in $3,000. We made medicine balls out of old basketballs. We put sand in old basketballs and taped them up. I mean, we really bootstrapped everything. And so it really was just a hobby. What I had learned in the military was, if I want to do something and I have a group of people willing to do it, we can get it done. And so to me, that part wasn't scary. I remember vividly right when I got out of the military, we had lived in the desert. We're building our own houses. We're pulling cable and digging holes and doing all this stuff. And if a drill bit breaks in Iraq, there's no Home Depot to replace it. But you still need that same hole in the wall today. And so you figure out a way to get it done. And so I had learned sort of the ability to troubleshoot, the ability to solve problems and make things happen. And so I remember getting back, standing on a street in Chicago, I was on Broadway, and looking down the street and seeing all these signs for businesses and doors. And I thought, behind those doors is somebody that owns that business. And I just don't believe that they're all somehow smarter or better than me. And so as soon as I had that thought, I just knew that I could become an entrepreneur, whatever that meant. And so I definitely had it in the front of my mind, even from that was probably a year before we started the business.
Well, that's a lot of stuff you covered there, because the idea, to your point, it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to start rich, in the business. You start with the basics, and you made things happen. And you're right. If you have a bunch of people that are willing to do what it takes, and there's no excuse, and it can be done no matter what circumstances. Necessity is mother of invention, and that's it. You have a need, you have a necessity, you make it work. You use whatever you can. But again, that skill you learn in that military concept, whereby no matter what situation you're in, you're going to figure out a way out of it. And you did. So when you did it, it was not scary. But the reason I asked the question is that a lot of people are always afraid to start. I need it to be perfect. I need to have a biggest plan. I need to have everything, the long term. You do have that ideology in your mind, but it doesn't have to be all ready and beautiful before you get started. A lot of people get hanged on that one, and therefore they never start because they have all these doubts and questions about how, why, this, that, as opposed to let's get started and figure out as we go. I mean, let's get the basics, and then from there you go. That's what you did. I mean, I love your medicine ball, with sand and the basketballs. Yeah. But that's kind of like they look the same in a way. Yeah. But you made it work, right? But that's the thing. Like, can you make it work with the little elements? And even from an investment now, granted, 14 years plus ago, but it doesn't matter. 3,000 is 3,000, no matter what time. Actually, 3,000 then could have been a lot of money, because you got to do it. But at the end of the day, you did it also that's the other thing concept. You did it in parallel. You were still in school. You're doing something you love. You have an interest. As you went to the corporate world, you had that. You were kind of like figuring out, this is not for me. The world of corporate is really cool, but the banking is pretty good. But you're like, this is not me. So you took all that knowledge, which, by the way, I love what you said earlier. Corporate does have, there's things you learn there. So for me personally, I've been in corporate over almost 30 years, and I've been on and off in on the side in businesses and stuff. I always had some business going on as a secondary piece. But I have to tell you that every single thing that you do as an entrepreneur, as a business person, if you were in corporate, it makes it a lot easier because some of the processes, some things, some shortcuts of things you can do. and you have some level of discipline again in the business world that you can apply when you are your own boss, where you are the one that's running a business or running other, different departments and things like that. Because if you have a business, you're going to eventually have people and services and products and departments and whatever, and people to assign, to delegate, to teams and all these things. And you're not going to do it if you don't have, you can do it. It's going to be more difficult if you don't have the experience, because you got to figure it out on the go with them. But if you do have some of that, it's just going to make things happen and move quicker, which in your case, you were able to do that. And by the way, that led you to being a pure entrepreneur. And I love what you said, that you started in the fitness world. That's what you knew. But then you realized some of the concepts you were applying, you apply to everybody else. All businesses are equal in the base. It doesn't matter what product, what service you have. There's certain core pieces to all of these that have to be the same. And core values are, I've been in the corporate world. You have to have a mission. You have to have the core values, and it's enumerated. It's on the post. I've been in a company where they had you memorize them, literally. Like, what are the core values? And we had a cool president who actually would come, randomly. He'd ask, like, what are the core values? And you have to, like, and if you get them right, you get like a gift card or something. So it was cool, but it was the concept of drilling that into the brains of the teams, because this way you believe. And that's the other thing. If you don't believe, you're not going to do. So that takes me to the question: how important are core values in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, core values are there whether you decide to reveal them or not. And so, as much as your story about having a corporate company with core values that were sort of pressed upon you, that's like the story that most people have. And when I talk to entrepreneurs all the time, I say, have you developed core values and a mission? And so many of them give me the same answer. They say, yep, we got them. When we first opened the business, we Googled a bunch of different companies we liked, and we borrowed some of their core values, and we wrote up a mission statement, and then we put it in a desk drawer, or we saved it on a file, and we've never looked at it again. Or they say that we hire people and we tell them what their core values are. This just isn't what core values are. Think about it. What are the core values that you hold? In other words, what is the ember that burns inside of your chest that's there whether you choose to acknowledge it or not? All of ours are probably a little bit different. There's a lot of ways to find ways to link them together and make them correspond. But if you're the entrepreneur, it's not your duty to look outward for your core values. It's your duty to look inward and do the work to reveal what was already there. What got you to where you're at today? Not what do you wish you were, but who are you for real? What is it that gets you up and motivates you? How is it that you go about work? Are you a planner, or do you like to run and gun? Like, there's all sorts of different ways to look at coming up with what your core values are. But ultimately, if I can figure out me, by the way, the Spear and Clover, that's 2 of my core values. It represents 2 of them. And that's why it's on my hat. It's tattooed on my arm. It's the name of my company and my podcast. It's because that's who I am. The thing that it's on my head, it'll be on my headstone when I'm gone. And so what I would say is, now my job as I grow my team is to try to reveal the core values of the people that I'm thinking about hiring, and make sure that there's alignment there so that we don't both enter into a marriage that's destined for divorce. And so at the end of the day, your core values are exactly that. They're the thing that have always been inside of you. It's really up to you to develop the introspection, to do the work and the maturity to actually just reveal what's already there. Not to hope that one day you will be disciplined or motivated or excited or whatever, or friendly or not friendly, or whatever the things you might pick for core values, but to actually just determine, who am I for real and what are my strong suits? Because everybody has those. It's really just our job to reveal them.
So those are the drivers behind you, behind your character, your personality. Now, I love what you said. Spear and Clove are 2 of your core values. So can you expand on that? That's pretty interesting. Spear, I can get it. Like, being at the point, being, focused, being, maybe I'm just, trying to extrapolate from it.
I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
So the Spear and Clover, if you're watching the video, I have a tattoo on my forearm of like a Spartan spear and a clover, an infinite clover of rope. And that symbol was drawn by my good friend, Jackie. But the story is, one day I was rucking through the dunes. I live here in the Ogden Dunes National Park. I was rucking through the dunes with my 2 Australian Shepherd dogs. And I had a 40-pound log on my shoulder and a 40-pound pack on my back. And we did 11 miles six out or 5.5 out, 5.5 back. And I didn't put that log down the whole time. I was very military mindset. I was focused on my goal. I was hoofing. I was moving as fast as I can. Sweat's pouring down. And that represents the spear, right? I was going as hard as I can with discipline and hard work to achieve a goal. Meanwhile, my two dogs are running out into the woods and playing and rolling around, and then they come back and they check on me. And then they're running out, they're rolling around in the bushes and going in the lake, which is right next to where we were. And they're having the time of their lives. If I went 11 miles that day, Hurricane, they went at least 22, probably more, but they were having the time of their lives while they were doing it. And so what had occurred to me is at my best in my life, it's not just when I'm military mindset, I'm super focused on achieving a certain goal and laser focused and discipline. It's also when I'm taking time to be spirit of the puppy, when I'm running around and having a good time, when I'm learning new things, when I'm sharing, fun times with my friends, or whether that's even collaborating on a business. And so the Spear and Clover really is a reminder to me to be pursuing my goals, to stay military mindset, stay disciplined, stay focused, but also remember to, enjoy my life as it's happening, to learn new things, to show up as the best father and friend and husband that I can be. And so that's what the Spear and Clover means.
Pretty good stuff, man. I love it. Like, you analyze everything too. Like, you're always aware and you can, and you apply that. And that's an actual characteristic that is important for people to adopt, or at least to develop, or even extract, because we all have something. Again, there's a lot of raw stuff in us in general. Anyone watching and listening, no matter what your circumstances, no matter where you are, there's a lot of good stuff in there that you can just extract from within. But you got to be aware of things. You have to see every single thing, analyze everything. I think that I use that too, like analyze everything, and then it becomes part of who I am. And you did it, and then you based your core, values that at least you apply, and you have it even as your logo and your tattoo. That's how deep. I love what you said. It will be on my stone when I'm gone. I mean, that's how deep you believe in that, and it's important. But it is meaningful, and it is a driver behind how you do things. So now you created the Spear and Clover Mastermind, for entrepreneurs. You basically consult and help people, that want to build business. Like, ultimately, the fitness piece was the first part, and then now you explain to anybody that wants to get guidance on how to best, operate, right? So how does that work? If someone is watching and listening wants to potentially use your services or learn your tricks and participate in your mastermind programming, how does that work? What should they expect?
Yeah, so the people that I work with, I like to call them magicians. These are people that can make magic happen, right? They wear all the hats, they can break through all the walls, they have big ideas, and they're super passionate about what they're doing, but they're unable to reproduce it in other people. They can't grow a team, they haven't been able to find scale. And so what I try to help those magicians do is learn how to transform that magic into science, to help them become scientists. That way, you measure what you do, you understand, if I spend $1, I get $2 back. If I, do this, then that happens. Because now, instead of being self-employed, where I'm the guy who changes the oil every day, and no matter how good at oil changes I do, I still have to change the oil every single day. Now I can implement science to become the entrepreneur, where I own Jiffy Lube, let's just say, and somebody else gets to do that. So I establish a business system that doesn't rely on me, doesn't rely on my memory, doesn't rely on my labor and my time for money in order to be successful and grow. And this is the core problem of small businesses in probably the world, but certainly in the Americas that I've worked with, is that so many folks enter into business because they can do something and they learn how to be very good at doing that thing. And then there's this big leap that has to happen for you to become the person who can lead and manage other people in a business system that you design that can scale while you're asleep or on vacation or doing something else.
Well, that's the ideal scenario, right? You run a business, but you don't run a business. You're the business running, and you can be on an island having a good drink, under the sun and a palm tree, and not to worry because you've already established all those things, and you have a team that's doing the job, whether you're there or not. But that is a big piece, because whether you're in the corporate world, whether you're in the entrepreneurship side of it, leading, building teams, delegating is always a challenge. And there are reasons why. I mean, if I believe in my thing, sometimes this is the mistake a lot of people make, is that I do not want anybody else to do it because I do it best or better. Because I don't want to, but you're right, you can, because you can train people to do exactly what you're doing and do better. But not everybody has that, and maybe everybody can train to do that. And because I'll tell you, I've experienced this. People try, there are some super delegators, some that don't delegate anything. They want to do it all. Yet they have
magicians.
teams. Yeah. Well, I mean, but a magician, you have to have, you eventually going to run out of tricks. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
stamina.
Yeah, exactly.
You want other magicians, and a true leader makes leaders make other people do stuff. And you don't have to, you can sleep, you can actually just cruise control. You know that I can trust so and so to do the job without having stuff, because I know I trained them to do what I do, and because they have their own skills, they can add that value, and now we have more. But it's not easy. So what are some of the things that you have, I guess, discovered in people that stops them from being able to do this? Because I mean, I'm sure there's a problem there. I mean, I kind of talked about just the general the general piece of it, but I know there's more to this.
Yeah, I mean, well, for starters, I think most people think that because they are special, these entrepreneurs, I think are special, and they're somewhat rare. I don't think right now we're in a moment where entrepreneurship is having a ton of, publicity, and a lot of people are entrepreneurial, and technology and the internet has made that more and more possible. And you better believe I'm all for that. But I know lots of people who just aren't entrepreneurs. Maybe they're self-employed, maybe they get to have flexibility, but an entrepreneur is somebody who's solving problems, who's creating a vision, and then building a path to achieve that vision. And that requires many different skills. It also requires this intrinsic interest and passion and drive that not everybody has, as you mentioned earlier, for their career. And so what we try to do a lot of times is we go to the top of what is called the managerial pyramid, and that is, the astronaut. We need the best employees who have the most skills, and they're super motivated and super disciplined. Otherwise, we're going to fail. And so people think I have to hire the absolute best people possible, and they're going to figure it out. And that's true. And if you're an investment bank, or you're a private equity company, or you're Tesla or SpaceX, sure, you can hire the absolute best genetic specimens of human beings who went to Harvard and Yale and Stanford and MIT, and they'll figure it out. But for most of us, if you run an ice cream shop or a bar or a gym or a podcast studio, right, you have to be able to do the other side of that, the McDonald's side of that. You have to be able to codify all that magic that's stuck between your ears into science so that anybody can take it over. The most successful entrepreneurs, by and large, Elon Musk kind of notwithstanding, but the most successful, Bezos, the most successful entrepreneurs have jobs that are much closer to the fry cook at McDonald's than they have close to the astronauts in NASA. And the reason is because they've codified the systems and procedures that need to happen for, this desirable result to repeatably happen over and over again on a very large scale. And so that's the work that so many visionary entrepreneurs just never can make themselves go through to do. And so it's what I help people to do. Part of what I help people to do.
That's quite a bit, but I love the way you break it down, man. And I'm sure that someone who's really in that mode, and you're right, people can be self-employed, and there's a big difference between that and being true an entrepreneur and building a vision and, and taking an idea to enlarge it and eventually to a point where it becomes the Jiffy Lube or any of the companies where it's run by default and people can actually duplicate and multiply. So that's great. Now, if someone joins your program, I mean, is that a one-on-one program? Is that like a group that kind of concept? How long is the program?
Yeah, excuse me. So I primarily work one-on-one these days, as I've been really busy with the folks that I'm already working with. So the folks that are the right fit, I'll talk to anybody, would love to hear from anybody that wants to just talk through their business and what they're struggling with. But typically I take somebody through a one-on-one process. There's a course associated with it. I've got an entire course that they can go through. But really we start with, what is your offer? What is the business? What are your core values? What are your mission? Basically the foundations of the business is the first phase. And we help them through that. We help them create an undeniable all-star offer that anybody would say yes to, that's going to allow them to sell not just to one-offs and different different deals for everybody, but one deal that really satisfies their market and the avatar that they choose to serve. And then we help them to build frameworks. And this is what I was talking about with codifying that magic between your ears. We help them to build frameworks where they can take those foundations and they can scale it upward in a reliable and strong, stable way. And once they do that, we help them get into flow. We help them understand, how to manage their team from the field day to day through things like key performance indicators, through things like modeling, through things like understanding how to manage a team and scale a team once you're actually up and in momentum.
Awesome. So I have a question. Some people may question this and ask, like, well, you mentioned that the concepts in the fitness world are very similar to everything else. But is it really? I mean, it's a very simple concept. You have to have a fitness background and you have to know the stuff, and it's a model. But because people probably will focus on the deliverables as opposed to the business piece of it. I think that's the challenge. Yet, if you run a studio, it doesn't matter, small, large, medium, whatever, a gym, it is still an operation. I think that's a challenge. So how do you just clarify to people, like, they're very close enough? And what would be some of the differentiators, if there are any?
Well, it's interesting. Fitness has this curse, and it's pretty rare. I'm sure there are other businesses like this, but there is a curse in fitness entrepreneurs, and that is people don't start insurance companies because they have some innate passion for selling people insurance. People don't start painting companies that paint your house because I just love painting the same color in a big flat wall and really not really doing it. But people do get into fitness to change people's lives, because people get into fitness because it changed their lives, right? And so many entrepreneurs that are let's just use insurance salespeople. Those people want to know about how to do accounting correctly. They want to know about how to hire. They want to know how to delegate because they don't want to do it. They want to learn how to all of these things, right? People get into fitness and they think, if I'm just the best trainer or the best coach or the best fitness business person, then I'll be more successful. And so I'll meet people who are the best trainer in town, and all they want to do is get more certifications. All they want to do is to travel to a summit where a famous coach is going to be teaching them about breath work or cold plunges or sauna or weightlifting or CrossFit or whatever it might be. And the reality is that's not their problem. They're already the best at that. They haven't taken a accounting 101 class. They don't understand the idea of meaningful differentiation in their marketing so that they can stand out amongst the people that are surrounding them in the marketplace. They don't know how to communicate to a potential buyer something that buyer already wants. They try to sell them hard work. The buyer wants abs. The buyer wants to look better. They want to look in the mirror and love the person that they see. And we're talking to them about snatches, and we're talking to them about sleds, and we're talking to them about jujitsu or whatever we're talking to them about. And so the thing that's funny is people will spend, in fitness in particular, people will spend an entire career becoming diamond sharp and diamond, clear on the thing that they were already great at. And they'll totally ignore the very simple concepts that would have made them explode in financial and professional success. Meaning, by the way, when I figured that out, we went from 100 members to nearly 500 members. So not only were we doing better financially, but we were making so many more transformations and helping so many more people in their lives. And I continue to see that. So what I've found working with others, I've worked with roofing companies and hormone clinics, and I've worked with dentists, and I worked with a cannabis coach. I've worked with all these different types of people now. Those folks primarily, they're very interested in learning the business because they're in business for business's sake in one way or another.
Wow. All right. So now let's talk about your new venture.
Sure.
So again, if you don't mind, the name and what it does exactly, because I know it's a very cool thing, and I'm assuming it's going to help people.
Yeah. So it does. Yeah. So I own a company with a partner, Dr. Jacob Egbert, who's wonderful. And if he's not already, he's an industry leader in the making. He's a very gifted doctor. He's very passionate, and also very interested in men's health and fitness, as have been for many years. He started as a client. And I knew that I didn't want to go into fitness, and I knew that I wanted to get back into being involved in a business in a more of a way. And I've been on hormone replacement for the last 3 years. And what happened for me was, I was 37, I think, at the time. and working out every day. I was owning a gym, running a gym every day. I was eating right. I was eating 90% right. Maybe not my absolute best of my life, but I was eating very good. I was getting plenty of sleep. I was doing everything right. And I wasn't getting the same results. And so at first I thought, oh, this is just what happens when you get older. I'm 37. It's over for me. I'm just slow death from here on out. After about a year of that, I had done this for years. And so I knew I do this squat cycle for this many weeks, and I should go from this number to that number. And it just wasn't happening. And so something just finally clicked where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get a blood test. I'm going to get a deep dive blood test and see what's going on. And here I am with a six pack, walking around, 225 pounds and pretty lean. And my testosterone is 180 and normal is, 300 to 1,000. And I was like, how is this possible? Well, it turns out, there's been a huge decline in our nation and our world's men's testosterone walking around. The average 35-year-old man has what a 65-year-old man would have had in 2000. Just 23 years ago. And so when I met Dr. Jacob and started to help him with his business, I could see not only that this was a business that I was super interested in, but also that he was supremely capable at the medical side. And I was a perfect complement to that on the business side. And so we've started working together. We've been working together for about 6 months. And we're working in Utah only right now, but plan on going nationwide. And so far, it's just been unbelievable. I mean, it's very similar to CrossFit, where you meet somebody on day one and they're not proud of themselves. Their shoulders are slumped forward. They don't have energy. Their kid wants to go out and play and they don't have the energy for it. They're drawn to their phone more than they're drawn to their wife. And what you find is you have that second or third meeting with that person 3 or 6 months later, and it's a different guy. That guy walks in the room, his chest is up, his shoulders are back, he's got a square jaw, and he's like, yeah, I just took my daughter sailing this weekend. We're going camping next weekend. I bit an elk on the neck and took it down in the woods. Like, it's a totally different guy. This person is out there living his best life, whatever that may be, by the way. I don't, whatever that might be. And it's simply because there was a hormone imbalance. And so there's a number of reasons why this has happened. And we have podcasts about that people can check out at primalmountainmedical.com. But whether it's, the plastics in the air, whether it's environmental stuff, whether it's the fact that we're sitting in front of screens instead of out in the fields now, whether it's because we're sitting behind a desk for work instead of working with our hands, whatever it may be, the fast foods are increasingly more, processed. So many factors are against us that it's becoming very, very difficult. Even if you're doing almost everything right, it's become very, very difficult for us to maintain a natural optimized hormone level. And it's totally transformed my life. And I'm just so proud to be able to help other men and maybe eventually women to help them transform their lives.
I mean, you talked about a lot of transformation there. I mean, just the example of someone in boot camp, or from day one to 6 months later, and how their personality, their posture, and everything. But hormones, and you're right. I mean, sometimes in the women world, we talk about hormones all the time, menopause and stuff, and there's cyclical stuff. But for men, we tend not to really bring this topic a lot. And you're right. And it is actually. I mean, I've been reading about it, and yes, testosterone levels are just high low, in the history of I guess mankind, because to your point, everything that's really against, where it's supposed to be. Now, this program you have, is it just I'm assuming it has also supplements or some sort of a hormonal, I guess add-on. How does that work?
Yeah, so we're a medical clinic, so he prescribes medicine. Everybody is different. It's medical health. Typically, that's in the form of testosterone hormone optimization and replacement. But I'm not actually for the cause or the topic. I'm agnostic. We only serve people in Utah. So if you're hearing me right now and you don't live in Utah, I can't sell you anything. And so what I would say is there are supplements out there on the market. There are other treatments that are out there on the market. What I would say, if anything comes out of this part of this conversation, is number one, do a little bit of research. And number two, check your blood. You may not have low testosterone, but what I also found was there were some other markers in my blood that I wanted to address. And especially men, when we measure something, we improve it. It's been my experience with everybody. When it was in CrossFit and we were measuring squat numbers or pull-ups or 1 mile run times or row times, as soon as we start to track things, all of a sudden you see that scale go down on the weight. You see the numbers go up on the weights. You see the numbers improving. My numbers across the board improved from borderline bad, like borderline red flags, to perfect within the first 6 weeks of me taking it. And it wasn't just the treatment. It was because I knew I was measuring it. I had a test coming up, and it's the man test. So now I'm working out more. I'm going on walks with my daughter. I'm eating more healthy. I'm not choosing to do certain things. I'm pursuing things that are in my best interest because I know I got a test coming up. And so what I would say is, if there's anything that comes out of this, it's unlikely that too many of your listeners are from Utah. So what I would say is get your blood tested. That's something you can do. And then research what's the right thing for you. Is it, nutrition and health improvements? By all means, try those things. We have a podcast episode that Dr. Jacob and I put out at Primal Mountain Medical that talks about what's the best way you can maximize your chance to naturally have optimal hormones. Unfortunately, for some people, that's not possible. And that's where medical treatment, becomes, much more realistic. And so, if you're somebody who grew up like my cousins that grew up in Minnesota wrestling, and they're hunters now and they work, blue collar jobs, I wouldn't be surprised if they're just fine. But if you're somebody who lives in a city, or if you're somebody who's not eating great, if you're somebody who's not getting enough sleep, or, you're super stressed out all the time from work, you might take a look there, because everything from energy, drive, focus, memory, muscle, fat, unwanted fat, all of those things improve just by having optimized hormones. And so something like that it really is a whole life changer for those people who get it figured out.
Well, thank you, Jason. And by the way, you hit on something very important to really address, is that we, in general, men, and I love what you said, when you know your numbers, you'll do whatever it takes.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the challenge. You said test, get your blood, markers up. People sometimes don't do that. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of us that probably don't even ask their doctors to do a full workup in their blood. They just do the preventative stuff. Well, not even preventative, they do just the checkups. And sometimes it could be a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
It is, like, again, it is important to do the whole work and make sure that everything is good. And whatever is not, if you can see it early on, as early detection, as they say, right, you will be able to do a better job at fixing the problem. But if you don't and you delay, it's just going to be much harder to get it, whatever it is that you need to be done. So it is important, just guys out there. And by the way, ladies, same thing. I mean, do your
100%.
blood work, check everything, make sure that you need whatever you need, because you don't know. I mean, at least when you know, you have the ability to actually address those pointers, and you can make a difference in your health. And by the way, your health and everybody else around you. Whether, again, talking about entrepreneurs, you have a business, you need to be optimized yourself to help other people and succeed.
Well, and COVID actually did us a little bit of a favor. I think it just accelerated this, but much like people are working from home, you can use telehealth now. There's been the laws in telehealth changed, although it's not permanent, it is still current, and it seems like it's going to stay permanent. That telehealth, so you can have telehealth consultations with doctors. You can go to a LabCorp. Most clinics use LabCorp, which is where everybody gets drug tested. There's 20,000 locations, and so women. And this is an interesting nuance, is women always have to go to the doctor. They go to for a lot of things. There's a lot, women go to the doctor at a far higher rate than men. Men, it's tough to get a guy to go to the doctor, right? If he feels okay, if things are not broken, if he's not, bleeding or, coughing something up, he's usually not going, right? And so what I've found is, just by lowering that from COVID, the restrictions coming down, where you can now have telehealth consultations and stuff, I do think that's a really big motivator for men who otherwise would have just stayed home. So again, like, I genuinely can't sell most of the people listening to this anything. This is not a sales pitch. It really did help me so much in my life, and I couldn't more highly recommend at least getting it checked, because even if your testosterone's fine, if you find out your cholesterol is high, if you find out your blood sugar is high and you're going to be diabetic, there are things that you can do that start with fitness and health and recovery and stress, breath work, things like that can dramatically change. And if you're 40, imagine, I always like to think about my life as I'm writing my own book. Imagine I get to 40, I'm halfway through the book, and every page after that is just the same, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. That's the most boring freaking book I ever heard in my whole life. If you're 40 years old, if you're 50 years old, if you're 55 or even 60 years old, you got a lot of book left to write. And so why on earth would you start acting like you're dead now? And so to me, there's just so much more life left to live. And so you owe it to yourself to at least get your blood work done.
Oh, thank you. And by the way, I know you're in Utah, but your message is really worldwide, and I think it resonates with everyone. And hopefully, you guys launch it up all over the world. And then
we'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is a concept that you have, but you're right. It's you mentioned 40. I'm actually in 52 mark, and I can tell you, your body is not the same. And yes, if you don't maintain, you will start feeling lazy. You will start feeling stuff. You cannot do that. You got to keep up. It's harder, but no matter what, you got to maintain, because to your point is, how do you want to live the rest of your life? You had a great, terrific life so far, but do you want to decline quick, or you want to maintain and have a, I don't believe that we extend our life, but what we do is we extend the quality of our life, because time's up, right? But I want to live until the time's up as optimized as I can, as opposed to live in pain and bad, outcomes, because it's just not a good way, right? So, and then you don't enjoy life. You got to enjoy life, right? Yeah.
I mean to cut you off. The thing I would say about that, because that's such a good point, is, whatever shape you're in now, if nothing changes, nobody expects that they're going to be the same at 70, which means you're going to decline. And so nobody that lives to be 100 years old started eating healthy and working out at 90. They started when they were 30 or 40, and then they maintained those easy habits to stay way above the pack as the rest of the population declined. And so it really is just a small amount of maintenance and work, because I talked about hormones now, but the beginning of this conversation was all about working out together and eating healthy and all those other things. These are things that make you feel better. They're good for you and you like them. They give you more energy. They give you the ability to do more fun things. And from a longevity perspective, if you don't start those habits now, somebody's going to be picking your ass up off of a toilet in 20 years.
Not a good picture, not something that anyone watching or listening would wish for or even get there. And you're right, it is not easy, folks. And we are responsible. It doesn't matter who's listening, watching, man or women. The concept is you need to do this. You need to take care of yourself and stay healthier and fitter. And you're right. If you don't do anything, your health is going to decline by default. It's just aging. So you need to kind of compensate of that, that decline by doing the extra stuff. And you'd be surprised. I mean, we have a lot of examples out there of people are in the 70s and 80s. Some of the movie stars. I mean, Stallone and Schwarzenegger. I mean, these guys are still looking top notch. I mean, for their age group. I mean, listen, I'd love to look like them, now, let alone at that age. But the fact is, they do the work. I mean, my favorite guy, The Rock, is rocking. I mean, he still looks the best that he can look, right? And but he puts hours and hours daily on his own. Now, some people say, well, that's The Rock. He's got the money. He's got this. Yeah, it doesn't matter. He could be very easily distracted by anything else because of the money, but no, he does what he does for him. And, and so those are the examples that we can easily reflect to and relate to. But the fact is, every one of us can be that same, and can do it. But it takes discipline, as we said earlier. You need to be able to be responsible for yourself and accountable.
Yeah. And you talked about being a martial artist. I am a jiu-jitsu guy. And before that, I was into CrossFit. And before that, it was sports in my youth. And one thing that I've always found is if you find something that's interesting, that's fun, that you enjoy doing, that you look forward to doing, where your friends are, you're not going to think of going to the gym as a chore. I bet you never have to convince yourself to go practice in a martial arts class. I don't have to convince myself to go to jiu-jitsu because I can't wait to go fight my friends at jiu-jitsu, a couple of times a week. And that's how I stay in shape right now. Or, I'm taking, hikes with my daughter down to the beach. You don't have to convince me to do that. And so what I would say too is, when it comes to these things, yes, there is some discipline, especially getting started, but you can find Zumba. You can find something that you enjoy that keeps you active. And if you can do that, it really doesn't take much. You don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. You don't have to be The Rock. And you can keep your bone density high and your hormones somewhat in check and keep your energy and mobility well into your late stages of life.
Movement and exercise will definitely optimize, at least the basics. Then you can do more with supplements and everything else. But you're right. I mean, and you hit on something, and we're coming to the end show, but you hit on something very important. I think we have become lazier. We have become more on like couch potatoes type of thing. We're just chilling and relaxing and not doing a lot of people. Best example you give about your guy who's a hunter, who's doing the stuff and he's outdoors and making things happen. Yeah. That guy is probably going to be in a better shape because he is. And by the way, nature had been that way for centuries. We were not meant to be sitting down doing the work, behind the desk. Everybody was laboring, working, doesn't matter. Before a century ago, 150 years ago, everybody was working a lot more, actively by physical activity as opposed to just brain activity. And so that's changed. Now we have thumb activity. You just have how fast can you type and how fast can you code and whatever, which is all good, by the way. Yeah. But because we have changed, we have to adapt ourselves into adding all the things that we are not having. I mean, as simple as grounding, as they say, walk barefoot, on the ground. That's something that people don't do, but it is very beneficial. And you can do that anywhere around your house. Just step out, if you have a backyard in front of the house, whatever. But oh my God, you barefoot, it's good for you. I mean, again, I'm just an example, but there's things that we're supposed to connect back with our nature and do things. And by the way, like I just posted the other day something like I was on vacation. I still have to do my workout. Actually, someone said like, well, you're on vacation, you're supposed to do anything. No, actually on vacation, workout is essential. I gotta have my workout. I'm not going to be lazy. It's what makes my vacation a vacation. Is I want to be not caught up with. I want to do more hours at a gym and I want to have fun with it. And you're right. If you do have fun with something that interests you, nothing. I mean, I love the jiu-jitsu part. You're gonna go in and you're gonna grapple with these guys and who's gonna put everybody else to sleep. Why not, right? It's the best time of your life. You come out there like, woo, yeah, baby.
Nobody's ever regretted going to a workout. It's the thing before. Everybody has resistance to go to the workouts, sometimes even me, but nobody's ever finished a workout and gone, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Everybody feels better when they're done with a good workout. I mean, as long as you're not hurting yourself, right?
Yeah, no, exercise feels good. I mean, you go to the gym, you come out, like it's work, you sweat, but when you finish, your vitality is there. You feel it. I mean, you're energized. It's just a different personality. I mean, a lot of people go before the work. They pump up and they go to work. They're just energized. And sometimes you can do it even at night. You come out of work and you go to the gym. The only thing with that, you probably won't sleep because you just have a second run. But whatever suits you. I mean, there's always a way. That's the other thing. People have excuses like, I don't have time. Make the time. Because the only thing, like they said, you can either make your time for your health right now, or you can make time for your sickness or whatever. So you do not want to do that, right? So we can do something right about everything. Well, Jason, this been a fun discussion with you, man. It's we just exceeded the hour, but really it was just, I don't know, we've covered quite a bit of grounds, and I've learned a lot, and you certainly, have a great story here that we've shared with people. So I will put your link, on the description of the show, so people actually can link up to you, at least for the bigger picture for the Clover and Spear. And as you have your other, new venture, exploding and expanded around the States, and listen, people are going to know about it because this is going to go all over. So hopefully that's going to help as well. And yeah, man, thank you so much for being with us. I enjoyed this.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Hurricane. I appreciate you having me on. This has been an unbelievable conversation. I love the energy that you bring. And I really appreciate you sharing this time with my audience, with your audience, which is why, if you're still listening to this, it's not because of me, it's because you love what Hurricane's doing, and he's doing a lot. So make sure you take an opportunity to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with his friend, because that's going to mean the world to him. And it's only going to cost you 30 seconds of time.
Well, thank you so much, dude. And by the way, you did mention you have a podcast, so yeah, same thing. What's the name of the podcast?
Spear and Clover Podcast. Staying on brand.
That's it. So, folks, hey, listen, do the same, share the love there too. And you know what? More information, more stuff. You get more of Jason, and his talks, and I know it's gonna be just a lot of good stuff out there. So let's do that, folks, and hopefully you've learned, something today that can change your life with somebody, because sometimes we got this, but we know someone who may not got it, and hopefully we can help them, and you never know, on your entourage, there's always someone that can use the help. And so just this is an opportunity to do that. It's just sharing the value. All right, folks. There you have it. I'm Hurricane H. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show and topic. Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
There's a lot of talk all over the internet these days about the remarkable benefits of carbon-60, and baby boomers are especially excited about it. Whatever generation you're in, if you want more energy, better health, and a boost in vitality, we invite you to try Greska's Carbon-60, a stunning development in free radical destruction. Being much smaller in size than conventional antioxidants derived from fruits and vegetables, it is far more bioavailable to quickly mend the toxin-crippled cells in your body. Greska's Carbon-60 is the only C60 product that is made without the use of undesirable solvents. The only one. Greska's Carbon-60 was developed by a brilliant NASA carbon scientist, and 95% report positive results from this Nobel Prize-winning technology in just 4 days. Visit c-60.com. That's c-60.com or call 720-600-6040.